In this video, we're going to be building a notification email template. So if you open the example emails folder, you'll see that I've collected a few nicely designed emails that we're going to build in this course. The one we're focusing on in this video is the simple notification. So these types of emails are often sent when you need to verify your account or you've forgotten your password, things like that. It's a really simple email where you essentially just need to click on the link. So essentially this email is built up of a header area with a main content area and a footer area below. So let's get started building that in RapidWeaver by opening our email project and adding a new stacks page, and we'll call this notification. Then what we need to do is go to our email stacks and add the styles stack to the page. What you'll notice here is that you get the warning again saying that we haven't completed the implementation checklist. Now we're going to need to do this for every type of email template that we build. However, if you are building multiple notification emails that have the same styles, what you could do is create a partial from the email styles that you can share on all of those notification emails. If you want to know more about creating partials, we have more videos and courses dedicated to this. We're not going to go into any further detail with it in this course though. However, what we're going to do is open up the page inspector and we're going to check off all these items. So we have set the email theme, we've disabled the advanced general settings. However, we haven't yet set the title and the slogan. So we'll go to the general settings, we'll set the browser title, we'll just call this notification email, and then we'll override the slogan and we'll just say a notification from RealMac. Now depending on the type of notification that you're building, let's say it's a password reset, what you would do is change the title to be, for example, RapidWeaver Community Password Reset, and then the slogan would be a more descriptive paragraph. So something like, here's a link to reset your RapidWeaver community password, something like that. Okay, whilst we're here, what I'm also going to do is update the folder for this page. I'm going to call this notification and we'll leave the index as it is. Now this is going to be handy when we export this template later on. Okay, go back to the styles setup here and check off these two options. We can also check off the set web address and we can also check use only email stacks. Now this option is essentially just a reminder to you that you can only use email stacks. You can't use any other stacks that you have installed. Okay, once you've done that, we're ready to start building our email template. So if we go back to preview, you'll notice here to start with we need to build this header area, and the header area has the same color as the background. So what I want to do is in the styles, I'm going to set the background color here. So on the first color on the left hand side, we're going to set a gray background like so, and then we'll leave the other color as being white. So that's our content color or our wrapper background color, and this is the body background color. And you'll see when we change this color, the background in the preview or the edit area here gets updated. So now what we need to do is add a wrapper stack. Then inside of there we're going to add a one column stack, and then we're going to add an image stack. So this is essentially our header area, but what we need to do is ensure that the body or the content background color here is the same as the body. So on the wrapper we want to set the body color, we want to set the content color to be that gray color, and there you can see that the colors now match. Then what we want to do is add our image. So you can either browse for the image here, or you can go to the assets folder, select the general folder and then the RealMac image here, and then drop it in. Then what we want to do is set the width and the height, and what we want is 160 by 85, and that is essentially so that this is half the size of the original image, so it's sharp on Retina devices. Then what I'm going to do is collapse the margin or remove the margin from the image. So now if we press Command P on the keyboard, we can preview that in the browser, and you'll see that we essentially have a see-through wrapper area with our logo at the top. Now we might want to change the body background color later on, but we'll move on and continue building the main content area. So back to Rapid Weaver, and what we want is another wrapper in below with a 1-column layout, I believe. So we'll drop 1 column into there, and if we actually go to preview and check, yeah, essentially we just have 1 column here. So we've got a header, some text, a button, and a bit more text. So let's go and add a header, some text, a button, and a little bit more text. So what we can do is just copy this, like so. So now if we preview that in the browser, you'll see that we essentially have the same layout here. We have our header area with an image, and then we have the main content area with a header, some text, a button, and a bit more text. Now we need to update the styling of this to make it look nicer, but hopefully you're starting to see how easy it is to start building up a email template inside of Rapid Weaver. Okay, now the first thing we want to do is change the padding of the box area here. So to do that, we'll go back to Rapid Weaver, and we've got a couple of different ways to update that padding. We can either do it within inside of the styles stack here. If you have a look at the sizing, we can do advanced sizing here, and we can set up the spacing differently. Or we can go to the actual wrapper stack and we can set some padding. So we could just say that we wanted 20 pixels padding all the way around, and if we go back and preview that in the browser, you'll see that that gets added. Now that's only going to add padding to this wrapper, so we would need to do that for each individual wrapper to ensure that the spacing on the sides is the same. So if I go and refresh that now, you'll see that that gets spaced a little bit more. So depending on how you want to set this up is going to depend on where you set this padding. We're going to do it for each individual wrapper. So what we are going to do though is go to the advanced settings and change the top padding to be 40, the bottom to be 0, and then the left and the right to be 20 and 20. Then we're going to leave the padding all around on this wrapper to be 20 pixels. So when you use this option, the padding gets applied to all sides. If you press the plus button here, you can do detailed padding and set it on the top, bottom, left and right. Okay, let's just preview that back in Safari, and you'll see that the header icon moved down, and that's because we added 40 pixels padding to the top. Okay, moving on. Next we want to center align this button and update the text. So in here we will say welcome to Rapid Weaver, for example, and we'll leave the text as a dummy text, and in here we'll set this to be center aligned. We'll have a radius button, so a rounded corner button. We'll leave the color scheme as primary. We'll have a look at that in a minute. And the other thing we'll do is update the button text to say sign up now. Now obviously you'll want to update the link URL. We'll leave it as the default, and let's go and preview that in Safari. So there we can see we now have a center aligned button. We've updated our text. If we have a look in preview, you'll see that we're now starting to get essentially the same thing here. Now the next thing we'll want to do is add a bit of spacing between the button and the text here. This looks a little bit cramped. So to do that, we'll go back to Rapid Weaver and we'll use the spacer stack here. So we'll have one in above and one below. Then what we'll do is update this text, and we'll just say thanks, and we'll say Team Real Mac, like so. Okay, next up we want to build that footer area. So that was the one with the blue background here. So let's have a look at doing that. So we'll add a wrapper stack in below. And then what we want to do is change the content color. So we want the background to be, let's just say we want this green color here. Then what we want to do is set the same padding on this wrapper as the wrapper above. So that was 20 pixels all around. Then we'll want to add a 1-column stack into here. And then, or actually I think what we wanted was a 2-column stack. So we'll add 2 columns into here. And just for now we'll add some text on the left and some text on the right. Okay, let's preview that. And there you can see we have the same layout now. So again, back to preview, we've got the content area here with the button, and then we've got the colored footer area. So what we want to do is just update some more of the styling. So again, back to Rapid Weaver, and we're going to reduce this text down slightly on both sides. And we're going to start having a look at the alternate color stylings, or the different element colors that we can set up here inside of the style stack. So if you've used Foundation or Foundry before inside of Rapid Weaver, this will be pretty similar for you. The styling that we set up in here can be used across different elements inside of our emails. So you'll see here that the button is using the primary color scheme, and you'll see that the primary color scheme is set up here. So if we wanted our primary color scheme to be that kind of turquoisey green color, we can do that there, and you'll see that the button styling gets automatically updated. What we can also do is for the text inside of here, we can use the alternate color styling, and that by default is white, and that again is set up here. So you'll see here that you have the standard color or the default colors, and then you have the alternate colors on the right hand side. So by default the text is grey, or this dark grey black color, and then the alternate color is white, and that is why when we choose alternate on the color scheme we get this white text. Now you can either do that individually, or if you know everything inside of here needs to be white, you can set the color scheme on the column stack to be alternate, and that will automatically set everything inside of there to be the alternate color styling. Okay, finally, before we preview, what I want to do is have a look at setting the element sizing, so the button sizing here. So if we push the plus button, you'll see that we have more detailed padding, or we can just use the simple padding here. So we have extra small, small, medium and large buttons. So on the medium one, let's say we wanted this to be 24 pixels, and then on the large we wanted it to be 30. And here you'll see that that gets updated, and that is controlled by these options here. So we can have small, medium, large and extra large, and you'll see that it automatically gets updated. For this example we'll use the large button. Now if we go back to preview, you'll see that the button has been updated, and so has the styling below. Now the only thing I think that looks a little bit off now is that the background color is a little bit too dark, and it looks a little bit harsh with the green color that we've chosen here. So let's go back to Rapid Weaver, and we'll update the background color to be a lighter grey color, so something a little bit more subtle, and we'll just save that into there, and we'll set that on this wrapper here, like so. Now when we go back to Safari and refresh the preview, I think that looks a little bit nicer, or a lot nicer actually. Okay, finally in this video I want to talk about collapsing or removing the margin from elements. So here you can see that we have a little bit of an odd spacing at the bottom in the footer here, and that is because this paragraph of text has margin applied to the bottom, and that is so that things aren't cramped together when you normally add additional content below. But we don't have any content below here, so we want to remove that margin. So to do that, you go to Rapid Weaver, you select your text stack, and then you choose the collapse margin. And what that does is essentially just remove all of the margin from this stack. So now when we go back and refresh, you'll see that's been removed and everything looks a little bit more uniform. Okay, and I think that will just about do it. If we go back to preview and have a look at the example email, okay, the only thing that might be missing is this footer text in below here. So we'll quickly add that into Rapid Weaver. So what we want is perhaps a wrapper stack, and then a one column stack, and then a paragraph of text. Now again, on the wrapper we need to set the content background to be the same as the body. Now this is in the same way that we set up the header area here, we want to do the same here. What we also want to do is set the padding to be the same, so 20 pixels padding. Now the reason I haven't just dropped a text stack in below here is to ensure that all of the padding and the overall width of the content inside of your email is consistent. You could just drop a paragraph of text in below here and put in the text that you want it to be. However, if it gets wider or if it's longer than the overall width of this email, it will spill out over the sides. So that's why I've added it inside of a one column stack here. What we are going to do though is reduce this down, and we're going to just say this email was sent to and then the email address. Then what we're going to do is set the alignment to be center, and the color scheme, rather than alternate, because we won't be able to use that, we're going to use a custom color scheme. And the color we're going to use is a slightly darker gray, like so. And we're also going to use custom styling, and we're going to set this to be 12 pixels. Now when we go back to preview, you'll see that we get that slightly darker gray and the text is smaller. Now when we have a look at our email that we are developing, you can see we have a header area, we've got the main content area with the button, text, and then we have a 2-column layout for the footer area. Okay, so I think that'll just about do it for the notification email template. If you're wondering about how you actually send this email or how you export this email to your newsletter service, we will be covering that later on in this course after we've built these remaining 3 example emails that you can see here.